past, flexibility was about accommodation. It was focused on individuals and retention. It was driven by HR and not the business. Work meant 40+ hours per week with your butts in your seats. Management, by walking around, ensured you were focused on looking busy. And promotions came to those who demonstrated their loyalty by being the last one to leave the office every night. Companies are realizing that this measure is wrong. It rewards and incents absolutely the wrong behaviors. It weeds out diversity and excellence from the executive ranks, and it hurts the bottom line.
Good evening, I'm Barbara Adachi with Deloitte, and I'm the National Managing Principal for our Women's Initiative. So I'm here this evening to talk a little bit about some of the innovation that we've had at Deloitte around finding ways to be flexible, and I'll be speaking this evening a little bit about our mass career customization, which we are implementing for all 40,000 of our US-based employees.
Hi, my name is Marissa Bloom. I work for CultureRX, which founded Results-Only Work Environment by Callie Ressler and Jody Thompson. We founded CultureRX and ROWE in Best Buy about 5 years ago. Since then, we've been actually separated from Best Buy for about a year now. Results-Only Work Environment is all about people doing whatever they want, whenever they want, as long as the work gets done.
Now I'm writing a book called Organizational Intercourse. And Stanford University is publishing it, and they didn't like my tagline was ways to do it. And the ways to do it is to change the policies and practices. And this is why I heard about ROWE when I was at Forbes conference a couple years ago. And I'm going to interview them because the truth is that the reason women haven't made it to the top in all companies is because the policies and practices advantage men and disadvantage women. So we're not saying replace them. I'm saying combine the attributes of women. I'm working with a brain guy here on the UCI campus because, let's face it, our brains are different and our attributes are different, and both of us bring something to it.
Decision Toolbox is a high-volume recruiting company. We're across all industries and geographies, and I've got 50 people from New Zealand to New Hampshire and all points in between. Most of them are stay-at-home moms. What we do is we flip the hierarchy on the company in that leadership really reports to the staff, not the other way around, as evident by our all-staff today. We believe in things like you don't ask for a day off. You're not allowed to ask for a day off. You just tell us. Because I'm a little bit smarter than having to have someone in the middle whose job it is to say yes, basically. So hopefully I can add a little bit to this group. We've been around since 1992. Just had our 12,000th hire, very happy to announce.
So at Deloitte, I think what we saw is really the convergence of 6 trends that I think many companies are experiencing. First of all, the shrinking pool of labor. Also, the changing family structures. Today, only about 17% of the households have this family structure any longer, where the husband works and the wife stays at home. So that means the majority of the family structures today are non-traditional. We also saw, of course, as we all know, increasing number of women, but at the same time, men wanting the same thing as women. And then also, of course, we're all dealing with the younger generation and the changing expectations of the workforce. And then finally, the use of technology and what that's enabled in terms of having more virtual ability to work. And I think it's really not any single trend as much as the convergence of all 6 of those things happening at once. So what we found is that for years, and because we had launched the Women's Initiative 15 years ago, and we closed that gender turnover gap, but what we still found is that we implemented what we call flexible work arrangements, reduced schedules, to really, first of all, help women. But we had a lot of men also taking it, but out of 40,000 employees, we only had 2,500 people on FWAs, because frankly, they weren't scalable. They were one-off situations, so they were customized to one individual. And there was also, believe it or not, and I think if you had these, somewhat of a stigma associated with it because they look like exceptions. So did people get promoted in the flexible work arrangement? Could they progress? So what I referred to earlier is this mass career customization, and I'll take a moment to describe it, but how many of you out there can picture a stereo equalizer? Or am I just too old? Maybe we all have iPods now. But a stereo equalizer, if you see 4 knobs, basically it's for all 40,000 of our employees. And I've actually, in human capital, we were one of the early adopters a year ago. So what it is that people can adjust their pace. In fact, they can go fast or slow in terms of how they want to accelerate their career, their location, do they want to travel, their schedule, do they want to work you know, a full schedule or reduced schedule, and their role. Are you in a leader role, like are you leading projects, or you're an individual contributor? So if you kind of picture those kind of up and down knobs, and what we really found is that we have everybody completing this template and saying, here's where I am, so there's a lot of transparency that goes with it.
The business improvement in our productivity and our turnover rates was huge, and it had serious cost savings for the company and made complete economic sense, while at the same time we really enjoyed a much happier workforce and a much healthier workforce at the same time.
We have turned into a me Inc. world, all of us, Gen Y, Gen X, booms. We are all entrepreneurs who choose to reside under the roof of another company. So virtual really comes into play here because these Gen Yers, are 79 million of them, right? To age 30, there's a lot of talent.
At Best Buy, we're seeing two different types of turnover change. Voluntary turnover is obviously going down, so people are choosing to stay with Best Buy over even more, more lucrative offers from other companies, which obviously Best Buy is super excited about. What also is happening is that involuntary turnover rates are going up, which might seem scary at first, but what's happening is that we're identifying where we might not have very good job fits, or maybe we made a poor hiring and selection decision, and we're able to use the performance management process to manage those individuals out of the company. Yes, that might seem harsh, but in this economic turndown that we're experiencing, business has got to get tough. It's a business after all.
I think the biggest challenge to change with respect to flexible work hours is it's a control issue. There is no reason for people to have to be in their offices when they're doing work that can be done someplace else, sitting on the beach. But it's FaceTime, and people want to feel you're there. You know, we had a secretary who used to read sex novels. She closed her door, you know, but she was there. No, I'm serious. Finally, I walked in, I said, what are you doing? Well, yeah, I don't have that much to do. This is a lousy example, but the point is, I really think the challenge is control. You have more control if you think the people are there. That's one thing. And I always used to say, it isn't the hours you put in, it's what you put in the hours. That's not original with me, but I think we have to remind people that. The third thing is with globalization, and then I just got one quick thing. With globalization, you have to work different hours. My daughter works from midnight till 4 in the morning. I don't know how her husband stands it, but I don't know. Because she's working with people in Romania. And because they're $12 an hour, the engineers, and you make more. And so there are loads of people that would rather work that way.
Everyone has control in a row over how they approach their work and how they approach their life. And it's that control, not so much what we think of as traditional flexibility, but it's really that control that allows people to feel good about what they're doing and to contribute in a way that they really hadn't before, and to surprise themselves and probably surprise their bosses with what they can contribute to the organization.
Frankly, I think everybody's in a non-traditional path these days, and I think the way that we look at it is by putting in mass career customization for everyone, there really isn't going to be like, well, you're in this program and not there, and there isn't a stigma that goes with it. I think the other thing, I really believe in this, is we call it compulsive transparency, but being very transparent about this. If you're not transparent, then that's where the stigma comes in.
Leaders who have to, when they're changing the culture, right, when it's not just a flexible work arrangement that's one-off, changing the culture, they need to see it modeled, because our culture so far has been in this industrial revolution where showing up is work, and now we're in this knowledge revolution where work is results. But we need to see it modeled by the boomers who've kind of grown up, you know, in the more traditional way.
I think the big thing is that even as partners, we can dial up or down. And so this model is for every single person in the firm. And we really believe that showing them that partners do dial down, have dialed down. When my daughter was 7 when I joined Deloitte, and I didn't want to miss anything with her. I was one of those dial downs. I was one of those, I don't really care if it takes me 5 years, even if the average person takes 3. Because I didn't want to miss anything. I was very public about it. But I think that that's the kind of transparency that we have to have more of, so that people could see that most people, like I said, that's why we've mapped everybody's career, is to show that everybody's dialed down at some point. And so that's why there's not a stigma. There was probably more of a stigma, even though we said there wasn't, but I think there was probably more of one, what we called it an FWA, because they were much more individual circumstances versus this, everybody's in it. So in the long run, 5 years from now, it will be great to see, well, we do have a number, I have a number of women in my own practice who have dialed down, who are partners. And they're very public about it because they want to go out and tell people, you can do this.